My name is Frédéric Mounier, and today we are talking about making sense of Salesforce consent management data model, whole program. So first, let me introduce you. I am a Salesforce solution architect at the Adecco Group. I'm ATI certified 5-star ranger. I'm a Lyon Salesforce Saturdays co-leader. I am the Lyon Salesforce Women in Tech community group leader. I'm a social builder Salesforce mentor. I received my golden hoodie this year in March, and I'm organizing the first golden gathering at FTD this year. And I have time to sleep at night. So, consent management. This is quite dry. Like we hear like consent, like ooh, I don't like that topic. Why is that important? According to GDPR regulations and other regulations also, if you are in breach of data privacy or consent laws, the fine can go up to 10% of your company's global annual revenue. 10%. Like nobody's kidding about that. As a Salesforce consultant, architect, developer, do you feel like you want to be responsible for 10% of the annual revenue of your company? No. That's why you need to care. So, consent should be freely given, reversible, informed, enthusiastic, specific. You should remember that. It will inform about the objects we are going to talk about. So, basically, consent is about fries. You need to smell the salt. Data privacy versus consent management. Does anyone know the difference in the room? So when we are talking about data privacy, we are talking about rights that are absolute. They don't need to have any record kept in database, no version, no text. We are talking also about all data in the organization regarding the client or the candidates, whoever your user is. We also consent data privacy. Data privacy is also not related to the kind of interactions you have with the person in the context of the company. Consent management, now it gets more fun. So the company is asking the consent. The company keeps a consent version, a consent text, everything in the database. And you can be as global or as granular as you want. This talks to the specificity of the consent. It can be restricted, like I'm giving consent, but yeah, just you can contact me at 5 o'clock in the morning via WhatsApp on my phone, and that's it. Or it can be global, yeah, you can send me a text. Whatever the time, whatever the topic, that's it. And it also depends on the interaction with your company. Is it transactional? Are you having a business with that person? Or is it a candidate applying for a job? Is it a student applying for one of your lectures? You need to be conscious of these decisions. So, data model, are you ready? It looks like that. So, first time I saw that data model, my face was like that. I mean, so many objects, so complicated, I did not understand anything. So what I did is to break down the usage of the objects and make it quite simple. Individual. Who in the room knows the individual objects? Who in the room uses the individual object? So, why do I compare individual object to ET? Because individual object is related to person account, to user, to leads, and contact. That's the hub for all the data privacy regarding one human that is related to 4 objects. And everything regarding data privacy happens in individual objects. That's what you need to understand. So data privacy is the right to forget, right to transfer, right to process only a certain way my data. And you will find everything in that object. Like many Salesforce objects, you can add custom fields, You can not use standard fields, you can customize it. So what you need to remember, data privacy, regarding those 4 objects, that's indeed individual. Authorization form objects. So when you say authorization form, that takes quite a long time to pronounce, but what does it mean actually? It means that on the website or on the phone app, you will get those kind of texts. Each time you open a new website, each time you want to use a certain app. We use cookies to personalize your experience. Or you are on that new website. Do you want all the standard cookies? Do you want to manage your preferences? Or do you want to keep on going without any cookies? That's type of consent. So what you see is you need a text. You need a version of that text. And you need to link that text with that version to a consent. What happens in Salesforce is that the more general object is authorization form. This is where you will keep the version of your consent, of your text. Meaning you don't keep the whole text, you just say, this is the authorization form for, let's say, that website for the cookies, done at that time for that brand on that location. Then you want to manage also the text. So the text, authorization form text, relates to the version. Because the way you can manage the version, you can manage by date and have several translations of your text or not. That's flexible. And then with authorization form consent, you are linking the consent that is given by your client, by your user, to the authorization form text. This is why it happens. I take the text, I take the version, I take the content in those 3 objects. Data use purpose. Yes, big words. So, why did I put suits on the slide? Anyone know suits here? I know Marilo, you know suits. So, basically, what Harvey and Mike are doing through the whole series, they are trying to understand why people do what they do and what is their legal basis. The why I do what I do is why do I capture consent data about my consumer. That is the data use purpose. That can be I am organizing an event. One reason. That can be I want to send a newsletter. That's another reason. That can be I want to organize a forum. That's the data use purpose. The data use legal basis is when it's within a contractual or a legal environment. So could be terms of service, could be terms of use, could be SLAs, could be service contract. It all goes in data use legal basis. Quite a mouthful. Then the contact subject. So who knows about contact and the movie? What they were trying to do, they were trying to listen to the outer space with those huge parables. Meaning, your contact has given a contact point. That is your address, that is the phone, that is email. This is the way you contact them. Maybe next year they're going to tell you this is my parable and this is the coordinates. I don't know. Maybe they're going to tell you you can contact by pigeon. I don't know. But you have a place to record all of that. And just like with the other object, you can relate to the contact points, the consent of your user. So far so good? Here we go. Last slide. Those are the communication subscriptions. Those were spread out. Anybody guesses why I did put that poster here? Because the characters in that movie work in Vogue. So this is a magazine to which you subscribe. This is the same idea. When you subscribe to a publication, this is where you manage that. Meaning, communication subscription, this is whatever I want to diffuse to my client. Communication subscription channel type, this is how do I send my communication subscription, on which contact point, and on which channel. This is quite granular. Then you have the communication subscription consent, meaning you can store that object, the consent that was given by your consumer here. And then when I talked about restriction before, we have the communication subscription timing, like, yeah, I don't like to be woken up. Don't send me anything during the night. So I'm working. Don't send me anything during working hours. Or I want to take care of my kids. Don't send me anything before 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. I don't know. So those are the main objects where you can put all the informations you want to gather about consent regarding your clients or your candidates. But how do we work with them? How do we gather requirements? How do we find out what we need to gather? What kind of data we need to gather? 4 main questions. What does your client want to do? Basic. Track consent, data privacy, reason to store the information, subscription, how and when to contact the consent giver. Those are basic questions that will help you design your consent management in your org. Who's your consent giver? That's another big one. Is it a human customer? Is it a client? Is it a partner? Is it complicated? We don't know. Still, you need to answer those questions. Who's your ultimate end user? Why am I putting that question here? Any guess? Yes, but also about user experience. Those objects are very dry. And if ultimately the end user that is logging the consent is a human with all that object, everything that person will do is key consents every day, all day. Because when you start gathering consents, you don't gather 1 consent, 10 consents, you gather millions of consents. So that's still a very big question. And then, other question, what's your granularity? All the companies do not want to track consent on the same level. Some just want terms of use for their websites, for their digital apps. Some want to manage that by country. So I am a multinational. I want to have different consent for Australia, for France, for UK, for the United States, for Spain. And it means it has an impact on your design. Then you can add another layer of complexity, channel. I want to manage my consent. Yes, Melissa. I want to manage my consent by country, by brand, by channel. And if we have timing preferences, I can tell you regarding the design, that's quite complicated. And then my last question, even more complicated. What is happening in Salesforce when you design consent management has a direct impact on what will be the experience of the user on the front end, meaning on the website, and then what will happen in the back end. So you need to be very clear on all those questions. Consent objects particularities. So they do not count against storage. Salesforce standard consent management objects do not count against storage. Neither do their history objects and records. And that's quite interesting because consent records comes by millions. They are queryable. You can do SQL queries on it, no problem, but it's very difficult to use in standard report builder. So when you go on consent management on in your org, you need to think about that. How do you want to report on consent? How will your DPO work with your records? Will your DPO even go on Salesforce to report on your records? And for those who manage integrations with Pardot, Pardot does not consider those objects as standard objects. Meaning you don't have a bidirectional integration with Pardot with those objects. You need to use the V2 connector, and those objects will only be integrated in with Pardot in read-only mode. And when you want the flowback, you need to think about using API or ETA or an ATL. And the do not email and as opted out fields on contact are not shortcut by those objects. So do you know the usage of those fields on contact? Do not email and has opted out? Yes, no. So as opted out means that it will block any communication sent to that person. Do not email only blocks email. And when those two checkboxes are checked, it means that Pardot, in particular, cannot send anything to that contact. Need to think about that. And even if that person has another consent record in the consent data model. Any questions? Yes, Melissa. Yes, that's a nightmare. Actually, the project I'm currently working on, we are using it with Pardot. We are using it with Marketing Cloud. We are using it with, let's say, a forest of websites and like 20 digital apps, front-end digital apps. And we have to think about everything end-to-end. And what keeps on giving with consent management, and also when you design with that data model, is that anything you do has repercussion everywhere. Everywhere. So that data model, presented like that, is quite simple. It's quite fast. But it needs, fair consideration. This is why I presented it today, because as I was saying in the beginning, 10% of annual global review of your company in case of data privacy breach or consent management breach. Any questions? Was it all clear? Thank you for your attention. It is a struggle.
Besides the 10% and so on, is that because you can very well have like opt-in or not, like have several checkboxes and so on, and manage that.
Actually,
It's of course not as advanced, but can you live with like a mid-term solution?
I have not found one yet. You can, of course, you can design your own consent management data model, but still you will face exactly the same problem because those will be custom objects. So they will be considered custom by Pardot, they will be considered custom, and I have the same problem with Marketing Cloud. And then if you design something custom end-to-end, you're gonna have to code everything. Absolutely everything, and you don't benefit from the free storage. It's like consent management is really a pain in the rear, but we have to do it. This is a legal requirement. So is it worth it? I'll tell you when my project is done and when we have found the light at the end of the tunnel. But so far, it's a subject that keeps on giving, because here on my project, we have managed how to store consent. Now we have to manage the deletion process when the consent has reached its detention limit. And then we have to manage. If we do that in Salesforce, how do we design the flow back to the backends? How does it impact what the user has on the applications and the website? What we deem mandatory in the objects in Salesforce has an impact on 20 integrations. Just like that. So worth it? Yes, because the company is compliant with the law, but that's it. It's just about limiting the liability of the company. Yes, Marilo? Thank you. So what I know HR companies do, because they have such a wide and heterogeneous audience, is that either the users go on the websites, check the boxes that gives their consent, or they have call centers talking to the candidates, saying, I am creating your record in our database, and that will trigger an email, and you have to click on the email to confirm your consent. In any way, a consent cannot be implicit. It has to be enthusiastic. It has to be expressed. You only tolerate implicit consent for clients. And that is not the best practice at all. You want to keep records of everything.
Thank you.
Yes?
I understand that about your project that you have your data model and all the things need to be synchronized with all the systems.
Yes.
Because they source the content in Salesforce, if I understand. What are you planning to do?
So I cannot give details, but we have websites and apps where the clients, the candidates, the persons check the boxes, give their consent, and then it flows back to Salesforce for the sales teams and the marketing teams to look at that and work with that, and then it flows back to the backends. We don't, in my project, we don't have end user facing any Salesforce interface to give consent.
Yeah, okay, I get that. But I imagine that is it something like possible to make like all the interface creating the data, updating, deleting the data, making like APIs, for example, kind of MuleSoft that are and
Everything is possible. Everything is possible. What you need to understand is what is the end-to-end process, what is the end-to-end life cycle of your consent record. And what will happen if you delete the record in one system, and how you need to harmonize everything. Because someone who has made a request, a forget me request, and you want that to be logged in Salesforce, but you also want that to be logged in the backend and synchronized with everything. So that, let's say 24 hours after that person has made that request, that person won't receive any marketing communication. Because in that case, you would be in breach. You're welcome. Thank you.